Hey there, and welcome back to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. My name is Sam Hind, and I have got a special treat for you today. We're going to be talking with the wonderful Kimball Hobby from LeRêve. Now, to give you a little bit of background information, we have had the absolute blessing to be able to work with the LeRêve field and Kimball Hobby and the rest of his family and team for the last few years in helping guide and steer, train and coach when it comes to social media. We've been able to work really closely with the field, see what they get up to, and watch a really amazing journey of transformation that happened last year. Now, Kimball is joining me in this podcast to talk all about what they experienced last year, some amazing stories of courage, challenge, and overcoming as well that both we and they observed in the field. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this episode with you. And if you want to know a little bit more about, who are LeRêve, who are these guys, jump on into the show notes and have a look. We've popped some little links in there for you as well. But I love the opportunity to be able to hear from companies themselves and see, what is every company going through? What are the challenges right now? And most importantly, what is it that they're looking forward to in the year to come? So I'm really pleased to be able to share this interview with you guys. We had a little bit of fun in here. It was a lot of fun to record, and I hope that you enjoy listening to it. So we'll jump on in and start our conversation with Kimball. Well, hey there, Kimball. Thank you so much for joining us in the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. It's really awesome to have you here today. It's been a little while since we've done an interview, but I felt that this was going to be super timely. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today, Sam. Always a pleasure to just drop by virtually for a bit of a chat.
Yeah, it's the way of the world now, isn't it? This whole virtual thing. And we're getting so used to it. I think if we turn the clock back a year, we would be shocked to find out just what we would all be able to accomplish in this time. But here we are, podcasting away and using Zoom and all of this amazing technology. You've got an awesome virtual background going on there too.
Pretty simple, plain white with the company logo, but allows me to be relaxed, which is what this conversation's all about.
Yep, don't have to worry about people running in the background, all that sort of stuff. Gotta love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Kimball. The reason I wanted to bring you on was because, as many would know, we've had a fantastic working relationship with LeRêve over the last, I don't know, is it like 3 years now, maybe?
That's right. Yep.
2 years?
We're
3 years. It feels like we're part of the family now. And one of the great things about LeRêve is we've also been able to get to know the field really, really well. And, a lot of your company culture and we got to watch a little journey that you guys went on last year. And I wanted to talk about it today because I think as we go into 2021, and we're well and truly into it now, just to be clear, I'm fully aware I don't think we can call it the beginning of the year anymore. we're out of that now. But I do just want to talk a little bit about going into 2021 with a focus on what's ahead versus what's behind us. And there seems to be a lot of focus on what happened in 2020. It's all the talk. What happened in 2020? And I feel like everyone's kind of focused on the wrong thing. But I also want to really encourage people today with a little bit of talk around, what you guys experienced, some of the amazing stories about what happened for you in the field last year, because you are essentially purely a party plan business. So up until 2020, you guys were very focused on those in-home events. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so can you tell me a little bit about what your plan was going into 2020 prior to the whole C thing?
Yeah, look, we were in a stage of gradual growth, probably a journey that we'd been just moving along, quite nicely, but fairly conservatively for about 3 years. So kind of plodding along upwards, nice little trend going on there. Obviously, we're going to talk about, going virtual. Prior to, the big COVID bang, virtual was just something that was a little on the side thing that some of our people did. And we never gave it too much attention. We did do occasional trainings on it, how to do a Facebook party, this sorts of thing. But I mean, 99% of our parties were in the home. We do supplement that with some online sales, which are all linked to the consultant. So very much supportive of direct selling. But anything virtual was just a very minute part of our business. And we were getting set. We were about a month out from our Achievers Incentive to Disneyland.
Oh, that's right. You guys had a trip away,
Yeah.
organized and everything.
Look, tickets were purchased. We had a group of about
Mm.
75 all lined up, ready to go. I mean, our bags were practically packed. And then, of course, this whole thing just really blew up. And it took everyone by surprise, and we were no different to everyone. But suddenly we were thrown in the deep end, and we had to change. And I mean, the immediate thoughts were, okay, we've just gone into lockdown. You're not allowed to have people into your house. You're not allowed to have a party right around Australia, New Zealand. Now, when 99% of your sales are through in-home parties, and suddenly that becomes illegal, that's
it's tough,
big,
isn't it?
shift to deal with.
So I know that this is no great surprise to anybody. Like most people listening to this podcast were in that very boat. And so they're going, yep, cool. I remember that time. But what was your observation of the reaction from the field at that time prior to there being any major solutions in place? Because there was everyone was very reactive versus proactive last year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. We had no choice. Sometimes that's just what's thrown onto you, and so I would say, major panic in the field is probably appropriate. On the corporate side of things, we had to very quickly put our heads together and say, okay, this is the curveball, the giant curveball that's been thrown our way. What do we do to adjust and to move with that? You never throw the towel in. You never just think, oh well, we'll just sit this one out and things will get back to normal. So we had to act immediately.
Yeah. And you guys did. You were very quick off the mark, which was.
We tried to be. There was probably, funnily enough, there were two things. That the obvious one is we had to very rapidly put systems with a bit of IT support in place to not just do Facebook parties, but to do them well. Some people had been doing them already and doing them successfully, but we didn't really have good support systems for them. So we had to very quickly stitch all of that together. And that was a big team effort that had to, just happen overnight. And thankfully it did. Convincing everyone to get on board and try it, that didn't happen overnight, although it was fairly quick. But then ironically, the other thing that, and this is kind of late March, the other side of it was inventory as a company, right? When suddenly the government says you're not allowed to sell through parties anymore, we're thinking, wow, our revenue is going to plummet. And so we were immediately looking into delaying manufacturing orders and that whole inventory side of things. Thought sales were going to go through the floor. And our plan was kind of a salvage mission. Like, okay, can we just weather the storm? And so those are probably the two big things that happened. And but then, of course, the outcome, if you fast forward sort of 6 weeks or so, we were just blown away by how just the results, the success of that giant pivot, and how quickly that did come together. March was slow. It completely trailed off when we went into lockdown. April was a disaster month, and particularly in New Zealand because they went into full lockdown.
Yeah, they did. There was a point where even deliveries became a massive problem over in New Zealand.
That's right. And so there was a lot of our Kiwi consultants that just had to sit and wait it out. They really were very limited in what they could do. Thankfully, that was only for 4 weeks by memory. And then May came along, and I guess you could say that from late March and through the month of April, that was our pivot moment. That's when we got all of our systems in place, and that's when we got the training set up. So that suddenly our consultants could start doing virtual parties. And it was a gradual thing that caught on during April, but by the start of May, most of our field had really grabbed hold of this thing. And May was just the most incredible month. March and April were kind of 30 to 40% down on
Yep.
the previous year, which is a massive
Yeah.
crash. May was more than 300% up.
Isn't that amazing? Do you know what's funny? We get the pleasure of working with many fields, with many different direct selling companies, and one of the pleasures for me is getting to see the cultures in different companies and where they're all at. And the fields, although you see the same issues across, they're no surprise across from one company to the next. There's usually something very different about each one. And I remember coming to your conference in the Gold Coast. It was at SeaWorld. Was that maybe 3 years,
Yeah,
3 years ago?
I think that would have been August 2018. So
Yeah, wow, I can't believe how fast time flies. And I got the amazing opportunity to present, to do a keynote at your conference with your field. And something that really struck me about them and has continued since, but I think was a really big thing last year for them and a big curveball for them was the fact that in comparison to many other companies, your field is very, very personal. They're very community focused. They're very connected, and they love a conversation. They love to sit down and have a chat. If I'm on the phone to any of them, I've got to just make sure I block out a good hour and a half for a good chin wag for a while, because these guys love to relationship build and they're naturals at it. They really, really are. Now, going into last year, I think that was a massive, scary change for them, because that one-on-one interaction is so important for the most part to who many of them are. And I know we'll have lots of LeRêve consultants listening to this podcast, and they're probably right now nodding, going, yeah, I'm a people person. And that made last year really difficult. But something that was really beautiful to watch was that although there was that struggle through March and April, I noticed an obvious change when a lot of them started to accept this. We're gonna have to get uncomfortable here for a little bit. We're gonna have to try something new, and something happened. I saw a big shift where a lot of them moved into building those relationships online, and actually, in many cases, beginning to really thrive and enjoy it, which was beautiful to watch. Although it was hard, it was really awesome to watch. Would that like I know you've probably got a completely different observation because you're looking at it from a different point of view. You're with them every day in the business. But, what did you observe with them? How did COVID affect them on a personal level?
Yeah, look, thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say that we're a proud family-owned.
Yes, I should have started with that actually.
No, it ties in with your comments of that feeling that you witnessed or that you felt at the conference and that you've felt ever since. We very much are a family company. We have a set of company values, and family is one of those values. So we are family owned and operated, and my parents started the company 2 years ago. But it's not just about our family who runs the company. We really treat our consultants and our directors in particular, who we get to know best, we really treat them as family, and they feel that. And there very much is a sense of connection. Now that then pushes out within their own groups and within their own party circles.
Yep.
Yes, this is a relationship business. I mean, relationships are the joy of life. If you take away everything else, relationships is what matters most.
Yep.
And everyone's situation is different, of course. Everyone's family background is different. But we all have that need for human connection. And our LeRêve field and many other party planners are just really good connectors because naturally they enjoy it. And, we have people who love going to parties. We have, mainly women who are home with kids, a lot of them. And, they're there when the school bell rings and the kids come home and they're getting them sorted and helping them with their homework and all that sort of thing. And dinner's on the table. And so, well, this sounds very traditional, doesn't it? But it still is the majority.
It's actually quite comforting. I think it's great. I think those values are very easily lost.
But what they love to then do is to, put on a fresh little coat of lipstick and extra spritz of their LeRêve perfume, pick up a little kit bag and head out the door. and go to someone's house. And, I've done hundreds and hundreds of parties myself. That's where I got started out in the family business, was in the field, so I could experience things
Yeah.
out there before sort of coming inside. And I know what it's like. Every time you're driving to a party, you're wondering, wow, what's the house going to be like? You already know your host, but who's going to be the party circle tonight? And
I'm just stuck on picturing you for a second doing parties. And I've got to say, I feel like there'd be a major advantage being a male doing a party in the business that you're in. The females would have flocked.
look, it was a bit of an eye opener. I was only 21 when I started.
Even worse.
Did it for a few years. Yeah, I was very young. It might
I
be
gotta give your dad a high five next time I see him. Well done. That's
it'd be a different story today. Although occasionally I still get out and do a party if I get the opportunity, because that keeps me really
current,
connected.
relevant. Yeah.
But I guess the point I'm making is that we enjoy doing it. It's not going to a job, and everyone who does home parties knows what I'm talking about. You enjoy the drive, all right, listening to your motivational, podcast, or listening to music to pump you up. You enjoy going into that home. You enjoy sitting around a table and getting to know some people for the first time. And it's comfortable because you've got that relationship with your host. And then you make new friends. It's an enjoyable experience. And so to have that suddenly taken away, that was pretty scary.
Yeah.
For people.
Now, we lost you for a second there earlier. You were saying how long ago your parents started the company. Did you say 32 or 42 years ago?
32 years it's been.
32 years. Yeah. I just wanted to count because we heard the 2. I was like, it wasn't 2 years ago. It was a lot longer than that. But then you talked about how old you were when you started doing parties. So I think people worked it out.
You did the maths on that. Yeah.
We did the maths. I'm going to get myself into trouble now. Let's stop talking about age, Sam, and move on. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the challenges and the emotional response. And I think, there was obviously not just the emotional response when it came to COVID. It was also now their lifeblood, the business, the community, the connection, the relationships had suddenly, was threatened. We know it didn't disappear because there was obviously a shift that happened. So tell me, just before we move into the exciting stuff, tell me a bit about the challenges that your field experienced as they went into the virtual realm. Now, we got the fantastic opportunity of being able to train your field with some virtual parties, which was great fun. I really enjoyed doing that. But then they had to embark on that journey and you got to watch those challenges. I know what we saw, but what did you observe over that period? What were the greatest challenges for them in that space?
Yeah, thank you. And look, it was a little different for everyone. There's a lot of people in our business and obviously in society and especially the younger generation who are really, really comfortable on phones, more comfortable looking at a screen than perhaps being in a live party situation where they feel that they might be doing public speaking or something like that. For a lot of our leaders who have been with us for quite some time, this was a really scary shift. And not everyone got on board immediately. And we leaned quite heavily on a few key people who were already doing virtual parties. Long before COVID hit, they'd already picked that up as a little, supplementary thing that they did. I'm thinking of one particular director in our company, and she would always try to hold 3 in-home parties and 1 virtual party every week. This is prior to COVID. So it wasn't the main story, but it wasn't only occasional either. Like, she'd done quite a few and experienced success with it. So, that was one of the first phone calls we made, and there were a few others as well. And we were sure to recognize them within our company, because without their expertise and experience, we wouldn't have been able to put together so quickly what we did. Because it didn't perfectly relate to the experience that I had back when I was 21 going in and doing home parties. I had never done a virtual party when COVID hit. So we relied on them. We spoke with our good friends at Oxano, with Sam and the team, and there was some help there as well. And so that's probably the first thing. We had a few key people who already knew what they were doing. And we could also say to them, okay, what do we need to do as a company to give you better tools so that we can really get this? But then it was still a big, scary leap for a lot of people. And, some sort of wouldn't do it immediately, and that they didn't get on board in May even. But then it's kind of hitting June, and we're 2.5 months into this COVID thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you really need to do this, because we don't know when you'll be able to, or when the world will be back the way it was. And we now know it'll never really be back to how it was before. And so I can say that pretty much everyone got on board eventually. They had to figure out, how do they change what they're used to doing in a home setting and go online with it, because it is different. It's
Completely different. It's, you look, the really interesting thing about it is that in essence, the way that they do it is the same. The challenge is that the attention spans and the first impressions, all of those sorts of things, you've got to work very, very hard when in an online setting to formulate where the direction of those things. And so, you can't just sit down next to someone and put your hand on their shoulder and have a little one-on-one chat with them. Suddenly you lose a lot of that. I totally agree with you in that it is a complete shift. Yet interestingly, I think the fear for a lot of them has been they've got to change the way that they do their presentation. And in actual fact, that part pretty much stays fairly similar.
That's right. I think the actual skills around selling and booking, that translates across. I think the key difference is that when you're in a home party situation, you are bouncing off real people in front of you. It's more of a conversation, a bit like this is right now. You're in a group, you're feeding off one another. And when you're doing a virtual party, it's a bit more like perhaps a monologue, where you're looking into your phone or looking into your laptop.
Very impersonal, isn't it?
And you don't necessarily know who's even listening. You don't know what they look like. You may have never met anyone at the party face to face, except for the host, and maybe that's only been a FaceTime thing or a Zoom thing or whatever. So I think that was probably the biggest fear thing that people had to overcome, aside from which buttons do you press. Okay, how do I actually, how do I go live? How do I set this up? So there's that fear of technology, but then I think it's translating from talking as part of a group versus actually delivering a bit more of a speech into a screen and reading the comments as they come up on the feed.
Yeah, and look, the technology there, that's again across the board, that initially was a big challenge for a lot of people. I think everyone's so used to Zoom and live, etc. now. The great thing was that we were able to incorporate both of those elements into the training that we did with all the fields that we did the virtual party training with. And we did notice that there was a definite preference for everybody between the two, but major problems that in particular with Facebook Live that were causing, issues for the consultants and, allowing them to connect with people, because it in itself, virtual presenting is impersonal. Like talking to you now, it's actually quite funny because I'm fully aware that in order to look at you, I need to be looking up here. And all of you guys out there listening to the podcast, but I just want to look at you and I want to connect with you, and you're down here. So this is why I'm going backwards and forwards the whole time. But it's one of those things that even I struggle to get used to, this whole speaking down a camera all the time thing. But it's the way of the world now. But Kimball, you've actually got some really awesome success stories that came out of this period as well. And I actually want to jump to a little bit of focus on 2021 in a sec. Again, I don't want to spend our time in the past, but I do just want to celebrate some of the incredible successes that you guys saw, because not only did you have obviously a 300% increase in sales over May, but you also saw a big shift in some of those people that were kind of the sticks in the mud, maybe the people that were like, I'm not changing. I've always done it this way and I'm not going to do it any other way. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, you don't get 300% growth without there being some really great stories.
Yeah.
And, there's many to tell. We have, I think, inarguably the most famous story, which I will share, and that's about a wonderful young consultant. She wasn't even a leader in our business when COVID hit. I mean, she hadn't been with us for very long, maybe 6 or 9 months, something like that. So, she was a good consultant, successful with her in-home parties, enjoying it, balancing it with a couple of young kids and so forth. And when COVID hit, she was one that just said, absolutely not. I'm not selling products, through a screen. I cannot do this. I will not do this. And she told her upline just straight out, no, not doing it. She postponed all of her parties. She had parties in the diary and she rang them all and said, yeah, well, we'll just wait till this, COVID thing is over. And then
goes by a few weeks.
Yeah, just around the corner. Well, no, not at all. And really, really grateful for her upline.
Yeah.
Because she said to her, she refused to accept that as an answer. And she said, no, listen, you can't just drop this thing completely. You need to do something to adapt and just stay in the game. And anyway, however that conversation went, this wonderful young consultant committed to having 2 online parties. And her intention was to do the 2 and then stop so that she could tell her upline she did it.
It was just to prove a point, right?
Yeah, it pretty much was. And the first one was going to be for her mum, and the second one was just for her. She was going to be the host. Yep. And so she committed to doing these 2 virtual parties. So, I'll tell you about these 2 parties. The first one with her mum, it went surprisingly well, and she got 3 bookings. I don't think she wanted to get any bookings, but she got 3 onward bookings. Like, oh, okay, all right, well, I guess I'm doing 3 more. And then from the party that she held, and I don't know how many people she invited and that were on it. I can't remember that part of the story, but she obtained 12 onward bookings. So suddenly she's gone from effectively cancelling all of her in-home party bookings, telling her upline, I'm not doing this virtual thing, count me out, to then saying, well, I'll just do 2 virtual parties. And now she's got 15 bookings in her diary. 15.
Isn't that amazing?
And she's not even a leader in our business.
Yep.
And overnight, she became the number 1 salesperson. She took out the top award in that transitionary month. And suddenly we're saying, who?
I love that. And it's one of many stories you've told me about over last year. And I love that one. I've shared that one a few times in amongst our accelerator group. It's such an encouraging story because sometimes, all the time, really, we want to stay where we're comfortable. And it takes a bit of courage to step out and go, I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone right now because I know that I need to. It'll be, I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow from this, as much as it's super uncomfortable. And that's no different for anybody out there. The thing is that, some people embrace that and we watched amazing things happen when they did. And, this is a case of where it was reluctant. I think a lot of people will resonate with that because they'll go, yeah, I didn't want to do it, but I got out there and had a crack.
And look, there's some key lessons that come out of that, and along the lines of what you were just saying. Courage comes before confidence. Courage has to come first because we're not confident in anything that we don't know how to do. We have to first have courage to take that step. And when we do get outside of that comfort zone, we all know the comfort zone expands, we become comfortable with it. Then comes the confidence. At one stage in our lives, you and me, Sam, and everyone listening, we were petrified of walking. All right.
That's true.
I think we were about 12 months old, something like that. And our parents were trying to get us to walk from one side of the living room to the other. And it was a really scary thing. And we fell over a bunch of times. But we did it. We persevered and we all learned to walk. And so for anyone who is thinking, technology, that's just not me. I'm just not comfortable doing it this way. Nobody is comfortable. Nobody is confident. You first have to just try. You've got to take those first steps. You've got to have the courage to do that. And then guaranteed your confidence will come. And we can do anything that we put our minds to. I mean, literally anything. We just got to take that first step, have the courage.
I love that. And I actually read something yesterday that goes right in, because we're actually building a new webinar training at the moment. And I'm talking a lot in there about consistency, and consistency also builds courage and confidence. Consistency builds confidence. So the whole point there is that repetitive, you do it. I saw a lot of people do virtual parties the first time. They went, it was really scary. It didn't go well. I didn't make and they start comparing themselves. We talked during our virtual party webinars about comparison, people watching their leader or somebody else out there sort of doing this amazing party where they've done 40 or 50 before. They've totally got it nailed, and they compare themselves to that. And they think, if I don't achieve that in my first one, I'm just going to give up. But consistency is also super important in that space because it builds the confidence to keep going, and you don't get it straight away. So yeah, I think I love that. I think that's very inspiring. Thanks, Kimball, for sharing.
And look, I guess the footnote or the end story of this young lady that I've been speaking about is that, the month after that, she made it to our first leadership level of director. And she actually climbed up 3 levels within 1 year, which is a very big deal in our company. She finished the year as a LeRêve executive director. She's jumped consultant director, senior director, executive director. And we run a company campaign. We call it the Lotus Awards because the lotus flower, of course, grows and emerges. It's a lovely metaphor, and it goes along with perfume and candles and all these things.
Works in well.
And the Lotus Awards, they celebrate or they recognize our highest achievers over the full 12-month calendar. So from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. And we have a number of award categories, but then there's the Gold Lotus Award, and that is measured in 5 different areas of the business, and it's kind of that all-rounder award. And happy to say we only announced a week ago, after doing all the sums, that this young lady is our Gold Lotus for the year, and she started as a consultant. It's never been done.
Amazing! What an incredible story of transformation.
But I also, like, people are probably thinking, oh wow, this lady just must be incredible, and she is, but she is so normal and natural. I mean, if this isn't, I hope she won't be offended in any way me saying this. If there was a room of 20 people and she's one of them, you're not going to pick her as the Gold Lotus winner. All right. So she doesn't do anything necessarily to stand out as this amazing celebrity with this enormous personality and amazing looks. Not at all. Just a lovely young lady, I was going to say like you and me. That doesn't quite work. But very much a wonderful young lady. But it was her courage and it was her consistency that helped her achieve that award. And so we're really proud of her. Hers wasn't the only story. The growth that we had as a company wasn't just because of one lady. There's a lot of stories like that, although that was probably the most remarkable story.
Yeah, although I do remember seeing a text you sent me a little while ago, which we can't give all the words because there were some colourful words in there. Do you remember the one I'm talking about, where one of your consultants she had surprised herself with the results she got over, I think it was April, and she just said, I just made all of this money sitting in my living room, in my couch, in my lounge chair.
Right.
And she was just so excited, and that excitement is just, I think that's what fuels us to continue doing this stuff, because it's so amazing to hear those stories. They're just what makes my heart sing. But I do just want to come back to something you said, because I know a lot of people, that comparison thing is a really big deal. And I just want to throw it out there. I know the consultant you're referring to. We haven't used names, obviously, but the consultant that you're referring to, I really truly feel that the reason she was so successful is because she was herself. And I just want to throw it out there that I think there's this perception that in order to be successful on social media, in particular virtual parties, but in this virtual space, you have to be one of these influencer types, this, person that looks right and says all the right things and, is tech savvy. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I think the fact that some of these amazing consultants did so well is because they were so real and relatable, and you didn't question if they were genuine. You just knew. And there was one that I remember doing at the start of the year. We've talked a bit about the 60 virtual parties, but we did our 60 virtual parties in 30 days. So we basically watched 60 parties from various different consultants in various different companies over the course of that period. And there were a number of LeRêve consultants in amongst there. And one in particular, I remember she stood out to me above all of them. And the funny thing about it was she was probably the least tech savvy of any of the parties we went to. She was just, how do you say? It wasn't that she was unprofessional. She was just so raw and real. And the funny thing was, that's the thing that stuck with me and made her stand out. Like I just wanted to buy everything from her because I believed in what she believed in. I felt her passion and her energy and her excitement. It wasn't rehearsed. She wasn't reading anything. And she was just being herself, having a great conversation. And I just want to encourage everyone out there that if you're still battling in this virtual party space, or you're thinking about diving in even to the industry and you're thinking, I can't do this because I can't do parties or I'm scared. You know what? Everyone was at some point. But the one thing that will absolutely get you from where you are now to where you want to be is being yourself.
Yeah, look, this is a really important lesson, and particularly if there are listeners here who are fairly young in the business and that haven't been in party plan or direct selling very long, and you're just starting out. The skills, Sam, that you spoke of, like the sales skills, the technology skills, they will help you sell products. I mean, we do, you do want to learn some basic skills, but that's not at all what grows a business. You grow a business through your enthusiasm for the product that you're selling. You have to love your product, and then that just has to naturally show when you engage with people. So you don't think of it in terms of selling a given product. You think of it in terms of falling in love with a product and then just naturally sharing it and being yourself. Why do people book parties? There's a number of reasons, but the number one reason is that they like you. They like the consultant.
Absolutely.
So someone who's at a party, why do they book? Because they like you. What's the second reason? They enjoyed themselves. They had fun. They enjoyed the experience. You can give a really professional, intellectual, in-depth presentation that's all about the products, and people will learn a lot about them. But if they didn't enjoy themselves doing that, if that felt like school, there's no way they're going to book.
The interesting thing is that leads to sales, but not long-term loyal customers. That leads to a sale right now because they're educated and they go, oh, yes, I would love this amazing perfume because I understand it, but it doesn't lead to a party booking. It doesn't lead to a relationship building opportunity. It doesn't lead to more team necessarily. So I love what you're saying there. I think that's so true.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Sam.
So that kind of segues me into another quick question here. So I want to talk a little bit about your favorite products in a minute because we haven't really talked about LeRêve, and I know we need to wrap up because as always, we've gone over time. This is what happens when we do interviews. We get chatting but I just want to quickly look into 2021. And I mentioned at the start, there's been so much focus on, the past and there's even a lot of focus on the present. And, one of the things you and I were talking about before, which I'm sure you'll touch on, is this whole, we don't know from one week to the next what's going to happen. But going into future, I really want to look at the future for a moment. What is your focus and what would you love to see from the field this year? Like what's your dreams and desires for 2021 for LeRêve?
Look, I think 2021 can be and should be better than 2020 for all of us. Yes, it was a wild ride that was totally unexpected. And we went through this process and wow, we came out the other end. And I think a lot of us, not me, but a lot of people thought that once, 1st of January ticked over midnight, whatever, that, okay, COVID would be a thing of the past and okay, where are we going now? But we can see that the pandemic is still very much with us now. Vaccines have just landed and we're hopefully going to get over COVID. But now all the media is talking about the next big pandemic and how it's going to be much worse. And I was reading an article with Bill Gates the other day saying, okay, if you thought coronavirus was bad, look at the next one that's coming along. And so we can't live in fear. We have to live happy and joyful each life. I've never been one to worry about life, about personal safety, about financial safety, about all of these things. I'm a firm believer that we're going to be okay. All right. Life will throw all sorts of curveballs at us. but we shouldn't live in fear. And I believe in being optimistic, and I'm very optimistic about the future. I think if we're talking about our business and our industry, what we gained from COVID was a whole new audience of online shoppers. I guess people that previously didn't shop online were forced to because they couldn't go out of their house. And even if they did, the supermarket shelves were empty, right? So it's delivered that. It's delivered consultants who are now somewhat savvy with doing parties over Facebook. I mean, it's funny. We haven't been face to face with with hardly anyone because we haven't been able to travel. But I have been able to meet with a few of our people, and it was just prior to Christmas. And I remember meeting a group of LeRêve consultants for the first time, and none of them had ever done an in-home party before, and some of them had been with us
What
6 months. And I mean, that's crazy because, we're an in-home party company and have been for 32 years. And so here were people in our company doing well, being successful, and yet they had never done or sold through our traditional model. They'd only had this virtual model. Now in 2021, we're allowed to party in the home again. Now, we've got to be agile because suddenly, boom, we're going into 5-day lockdown, or hang on, this border's going to close again.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's uncertainty, but we've got to maintain our strong focus with virtual. We've got to keep evolving with all of the technologies and the different social media platforms and so on. But we also, we can't just look at in-home parties as in the rearview mirror, because people still love getting together person to person, face to face, knee to knee, cheek to cheek. That will never, ever, 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 ever change. Yes, we're used to this Zoom thing, but we love getting together in person and connecting. And so we can't toss that out. And to all those consultants who joined during 2020, who only know the virtual model, you've got to be courageous and get out there and book an in-home party. And you've got to go in and experience
I love that. Let's do some training now on in-home parties.
That's what we need to do. But we've got to remain agile. If you're thinking, well, I could book a party in a week's time, but maybe the premier is going to put us back into lockdown or something, then, really practically, we've got to close date our party bookings.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Hey, get a crowd tomorrow night. Now, it doesn't have to be a crowd of 10. It can be a crowd of 3 or 4 or maybe 5 people. Just pull a few friends over at short notice. These are the sorts of easy in-home parties we can do that will be really successful. But then we've also got to be great at just doing quick virtual parties. You can do a 15-minute virtual party. Just talk about your 5 favorite products.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this whole massive spiel. Keep it short and simple and make each one different. Because I don't know about you, Sam, well, you went to 60 virtual parties. That can get repetitive, right? And so we can't afford to get repetitive. You've got to bring something different at each party. And I think that's part of just being natural and being genuine. Let's talk about this today, and let's not follow this rigid script where we're always doing the same thing. But I see this year as being better than 2020. Of course, we're looking forward to borders, reopening with some confidence so that we can travel and get together with our people. I think everyone misses that. But if last year was all about the virtual party, well, this year is all about both. It's a true hybrid situation, virtual and in-home, and whatever the next big thing is going to be on top of that.
Yeah. And one thing as well that I'd add to that, I think there's actually going to be a big shift this year as well into people wanting to enter into the direct selling business. And I say that because there's a lot of people who were out of work last year, but I think there's also another group of people that got a taste of working from home and having some flexibility and freedom and went, hey, you know what? I want to take a bit of control of my own financial well-being, my own freedom, my own flexibility. Particularly the parents out there that want that balance. I think we're going to see, and I've also noticed a big shift around perception of this industry, which is so wonderful to see, because I think there's been this stigma around direct selling, party plan and network marketing for so many years. And I'm seeing a little change in that, particularly last year as people saw the benefit of what this industry offers, the fact that you get that amazing personalized service, incredible products, connection, relationships, and the opportunity to build a business if you want to go down that path. And so I think we're going to see a lot more people as well that are going, hey, you know what? I want to give this business idea a go with whatever company it is that they're passionate about or they feel connected to. I think we're going to see a big shift in that space in 2020. And I'm really excited about that.
And look, especially because once you try out the online tools, you see that it is so easy to sell. You can even do it without a car these days. You don't have to leave home. But yeah, look, Sam, in all of my years, I've never come across another business model that provides a high hourly income opportunity. If you do the sums, you get paid a very good hourly rate in Party Plan, and something that anyone can pick up and do and make it totally flexible to their situation. So yes, there are other ways of getting paid very well, whether you get lucky or whether you study or you do this and that. Maybe you're blessed with athletic ability and so you make your riches that way. But as far as, the mass population goes, I've just never seen anything that beats direct selling. And it's not a get rich overnight, and we don't make millions of dollars in our sleep and things like this, but the income is real. And if you want to do one party a week, you can earn a couple $100 in a couple of hours, or even less with virtual. If you want to earn a full-time income, you can do 3 parties a week and grow a team, and or just 5 parties a week, without a team. And it is very real. And that's why this business model is just going to keep getting stronger and stronger. It's the ultimate side hustle, and you can keep your current job if you want to. You can do it around a family, no matter how many kids you've got. You can study. I mean, when I was out doing parties, I was studying full time, and so this was my side hustle. It was LeRêve.
So you were allowed to make money when you were in the business. You were a consultant. You were a legitimate, full-fledged consultant, right?
And that's the only way that I got money. I had to earn my no handouts, Sam.
I love it. That's some good parenting right in there. Well, look, Kimball, this has been awesome. And there's so many more things I could ask you and talk to you about. And I feel myself wanting to go off on another tangent, but I'm also very aware of time. So I want to ask you, because we haven't talked much about the LeRêve products, just as we're finishing up now, what's your favorite LeRêve product?
Okay. Thank you. I didn't have to think too long about this, but I'm going to make it a 4.
I didn't prepare you for this one. It was...
And I'll try to be quick on it though. So at LeRêve, we have 4 ranges, right? We have perfume, we have candles and reed diffusers, we have aromatherapy, essential oils, and then we have skincare, 100% natural and plant derived. What's my favorite product? Well, my favorite product of all time is perfume, because that's what our company started on. And I'm thinking back to when I was 15, 16 years of age in high school, and I was wearing high quality concentrate French parfum in the schoolyard. And even though I was a shy boy, I did not have confidence with the ladies, all right? But the girls noticed my fragrance, and I became a bit popular because of how I smelled. So I always smell good. So there's that. But really, what's the product that has the most meaning to me right now? It would be from our essential oil range. It would be our ultrasonic diffuser. In fact, there's one 2 meters away. I'd have to go off camera to grab it though. But our ultrasonic diffuser, which diffuses the essential oils, it's an air purifier, it's a humidifier, and it's an ionizer. It emits negative ions in the air. Well, I have a diffuser parked right next to my desk. So, and that as soon as I walk into the office, boom, the water goes in, the oil goes in, and it's switched on and it runs all day. At home, we've got, I think, 8 of them. They're all over the house. So
a few consultants have told me they've got one in every room, and I'm great idea.
And I've even got our portable version in our car. So, most of my life is spent inhaling essential oils through our diffuser. Now, I promised I'd be quick, but there's 2 more products I want to tell you about, because then I have to talk about my wife's favorite products. Now, if you were to say what's your wife most in love with, it's our candle range. In fact, she's pretty much single-handedly responsible for LeRêve even having a candle range, because she's so in love with candles that she begged her father-in-law to put out a candle range, and then she helped develop it. So we have candles, largely because of my wife, and they burn all day, every day, all over the house. But then the product range that's perhaps the most meaningful to her and that she uses religiously is our skincare range. And we just relaunched our 3rd generation skincare range. It's 100% natural and plant derived. This is among the very best skincare in the world at good prices. And there's a whole story. I get really excited and take another half hour to tell you about it. But my wife is fanatical. She never, ever, ever, ever misses her morning and evening skincare routines. And I'm not exaggerating, Sam. I cannot remember a day in our whole marriage. If we go out somewhere and come home at 2 a.m., not that we do that anymore, but at 2 a.m., she's in there doing her skincare.
Oh, so this was even before you guys created the skincare range. This is like a standard.
I think she only married me for my skincare because we had previous ranges. We first brought out skincare way back in 92, but she used a different brand before we met. And I'm pretty sure she only agreed to marry me because she got a free skincare hookup for life. And so,
because you smell good.
That was part of it.
That helped. Yeah.
But if we go camping, Sam, she brings the full set of skincare.
Wow. Okay. And that's impressive.
I'm not kidding. And Sam, I know I have it on good authority that you're going camping this weekend. So I hope you've packed your skincare. Okay.
I have got some stuff packed, but I was thinking I felt like I was being too much of a princess by packing skincare. So can I get it on? Can I get permission from you?
You are fully authorized.
You must
take your cleanser, your exfoliator,
everything.
Your serum.
Sitting there over the washing up bucket, and we're literally taking backpacks. So this could be interesting. I'll be in the ocean doing my skincare. I've got to have a giggle about the fragrance thing though. Thank you for sharing that story. That puts a great picture in the mind. And I'll have to mention that to Greg. Greg is not a fragrance person. He loves essential oils and natural fragrance. Perfume, I really struggle with him because he doesn't love it. He doesn't love strong smells like that. So I'm going to tell him that he will attract a lot more attention and be far more attractive if he wears quality perfume.
Yeah, look, guys.
I'll tell him Kimball said.
They just need to be sold on the benefits. It's like everyone else. What's the benefit going to be of him just putting on a little spray of LeRêve fragrance? What's
his wife will love him that a little bit more.
See, there it is. That's a pretty good benefit.
We'll see if he listens to this podcast. I won't make mention of this to him. I'll see if he comes to me. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Kimball. It's been really great having a chat with you. And I'm sure that there might be an opportunity for us down the track, maybe even to do a review at the end of 2021 about what happened this year and what's going to happen in 2022.
Sounds good. Sam, I'm all in. It's been fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me, Kimball. I'm going to pop a link in the show notes as well. If you want to check out the LeRêve website, have a look at those few amazing products that Kimball's mentioned, get in there and have a little bit of a look at them. But thanks again so much, Kimball, for joining us. It's been fantastic having you. And thank you for taking the time out of your very busy day to have this chat. I'm sure a lot of consultants from any company are going to get a lot out of this and feel hopefully a bit encouraged and inspired to get out there and step into some courage.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been fun. Thank you for your time, Sam. And to all those listeners, congratulations on making it this far. I hope you do take something away from our little chat.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kimball. Bye.